Hello, I'm Mariam Mashiri. This is the Iran War Today, our daily briefing bringing you up to date with all you need to know on day 52 of the US-Israel war with Iran. Over the course of the next 10 minutes or so, we'll get the latest from our teams across the world. We'll be live with Lyse Doucet in Tehran and Azadeh Mashiri in Islamabad. Let's start, though, with some of the day's key developments now. Pakistan gears up to host Iran-US peace talks. An American team is set to head to Islamabad. But the big question is, will Iran attend? The moment the US military attacks and seizes an Iranian cargo ship trying to escape the American blockade of Iran's ports, the Iranians say they will retaliate. Israel warns people in Lebanon not to return to their homes in the south as Lebanon's president says he hopes fresh talks with Israel will save his country from further war. Meanwhile, Israel's prime minister condemns an Israeli soldier who attacked a statue of Jesus Christ with a sledgehammer in southern Lebanon. And the BBC investigates insider trading rumours swirling around the Trump presidency, including during the Iran war. Now, let's talk about the big question. Will they or won't they go ahead? We are, of course, talking about peace talks in Pakistan. Well, the capital, Islamabad, is certainly gearing up for the discussions. You remember it hosted those failed talks earlier this month. Barbed wire has been rolled across many roads leading to the city's diplomatic area. Police, army and paramilitary are providing armed security with thousands of officers on the streets. The US team will be headed by Vice-President JD Vance. Reports from Washington say the delegation will set off soon, but it's still unclear if Iran will attend. An Iranian spokesman says they have no plans for the next round of negotiation and no decision has been made. Well, it comes after the US attacked and seized an Iranian cargo ship trying to get past its blockade of Iran's ports. Well, the US military released images which they said showed Marines that had departed the USS Tripoli assault ship by helicopter, descending by rope onto the vessel, the Tuska. President Trump says the ship was given fair warning to stop, but the crew refused to listen, and the Navy ship, in his words, stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Well, here's the moment shots were fired.
Motor vessel Tosca, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
Okay, we gave the flare. Now we're getting
Well, Iran's military has said it will retaliate to that seizure. The Strait of Hormuz is certainly one of the stumbling blocks between Iran and the US at the talks. If they go ahead, would have to tackle. Well, let's cross live now to Islamabad and our South Asia correspondent Azadeh Mashiri. Azadeh, what are the Pakistani government saying right now about the likelihood of these talks actually going ahead?
Well, there's been so much anticipation, but also a lot of preparation for these possible talks between the United States and Iran to happen again here in Islamabad in an effort to end weeks of war. And while Pakistan has been broadcasting its mediation, has been showing images of the Field Marshal Asim Munir, the chief of the army here and the de facto leader in Pakistan, that's how it works, making these trips around the world to meet not only with Iranian officials, but also other mediating countries as well. We still don't know whether both sides will actually turn up here in Islamabad. We've heard that the US delegation, as you mentioned, will make its way here, will be led by JD Vance. But as far as the Iranians are concerned, they haven't ruled it out, but they say as of now, they have no plans to attend those talks. So what does that mean for the United States? Would a delegation come here if there's no guarantee from Iran? And what would that delegation actually look like? It's worth remembering that we have been here before. During that first round of talks in Islamabad, up until the night before, we weren't sure whether Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, who was due to lead those talks, would actually turn up here with his own delegation. And yet that led to the highest level face-to-face talks between the United States and Iran since 1979, when the Islamic Republic was actually founded. And so it's worth remembering that anything can happen here. What is different are the events in the Strait of Hormuz and the ceasefire that is due to expire on Wednesday.
Azadeh, thank you. Well, let's get the view from inside Iran now. Our chief international correspondent, Lyse Doucet, is allowed to report from Tehran on condition that none of her material is used on the BBC's Persian service. Well, Lyse, let's talk a little bit more about what's happening in Iran. What more are you hearing about the likelihood that someone from the Iranian delegation will arrive in Islamabad and that talks can continue?
Well, Miriam, there was that press briefing that you referred to earlier today by the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Islamabad. And the phrase to hold on to, he said, so far we have no plans to go to Islamabad. So far, we haven't made any decisions. But I think there is a growing sense here that Iran is trying to make its point. Bear in mind that even before the incident in the Strait of Hormuz, that is called an act of piracy, it already had reservations about going to Islamabad. It said, and it didn't say it through official, it said it through media reports, that it didn't want to go back to talks while the U.S. naval blockade was still in force. And so therefore they already had some reservations. We also have heard that they really aren't certain about what can emerge from a second round of high-stake talks. They still believe, and we see this reflected in some of the social media posts, the most recent by the President, Masoud Pezeshkian, talking about the demands being made by the Americans, their negotiating style, and of course about the absence of trust. But the fact of the matter is, Miriam, they don't want to be seen as the ones that will be responsible for the breakdown in talks. If JD Vance gets on a plane and goes all the way to Islamabad, they will make a very short flight later in the day and would be expected to turn up.
And Lyse, you yourself have talked to a senior Iranian lawmaker about the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's intentions there. What did he tell you?
There's a lot of discussion here about what is the future, what is the fate of this strategic waterway. This has been a gift to Iran's leadership during this war when they carried out this horizontal escalation. We're able to weaponize the strait, and they've been using it as leverage, as a bargaining chip in the negotiations. But there is a growing sense that actually they see this as long-term, that it could be an economic lifeline to get out of the stranglehold of sanctions, and that it could give them more leverage, some part of a strategic deterrence in the long run. So we sat down with the chairman of the Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, and I asked him, when are you going to give up control of the Strait of Hormuz, Ibrahim Azizi? Will Iran ever give up its control of the Strait of Hormuz?
Certainly not. Certainly not. We believe this is our inalienable right. We are preparing a plan to be approved by Parliament with comprehensive regulations ruling passage through the strait to be implemented by the armed forces.
Even your neighbors, with whom you had good relations before the war, are saying this is international waters and this is an act of piracy.
Today, America is the world's biggest pirate.
Well, Lyse, before I let you go, just tell me, if you can, what the mood is like of people inside Iran as we get ever closer to the end of that ceasefire deal.
Well, we're only in Tehran. It was a cold, rainy day today, and you really get a sense here people are just getting by day, little by little. The pressures that were imposed during that war are being lifted. The airspace has been partially reopened for those who can fly, who have enough money to fly. The two major airports here in Tehran will soon be opening up to passenger flights. That near total internet blackout is slowly being eased. Yesterday they announced they'd be opening it, of course, to academics. Now today there are reports that businesses, of course, who would be chosen by the authorities will also be able to access that internet, the worldwide web. And what we're seeing too, though, is when you go to the markets where prices were high even before the war, they are higher still. And some people, Miriam, would really like to see a deal. They tell us they're hoping that the deal can be done so that these sanctions strangling their lives can be lifted. But in one grocery store, one shopkeeper said, I don't want a deal. I want to keep punishing the Americans. Others, of course, don't want a deal because they don't want an agreement which helps keep the hardliners they want to remove in place.
Lyse, thank you very much indeed. Our chief international correspondent, Lyse Doucet, reporting live from inside Iran there. Well, let's turn our attention now to Lebanon, because Israel's warned people there not to return to their homes in the south. That's despite the fragile truce being in place. A military spokesman said people should not move south of a line of villages or approach areas near the Litani River. The spokesman said Israeli forces would remain in the area to counter Hezbollah activity. The Lebanese president says upcoming negotiations with Israel are aimed at ending hostilities. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's stunned and saddened after an image emerged on social media of an Israeli soldier hitting a statue of Jesus Christ with a sledgehammer in southern Lebanon. Mr. Netanyahu said he condemned the act in the strongest terms. Well, our correspondent John Donison is in Jerusalem. And John, tell us more about that statue and the reaction after the event.
Well, a pretty striking image. You see an Israeli soldier standing over the statue with a sledgehammer about to destroy it. And it's caused outrage in Lebanon, but also further afield. We have the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, himself an evangelical Christian, calling for swift, severe and public consequences for whoever carried this out. And then a statement earlier today on social media from the Prime Minister here, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that the vast majority of Israelis were stunned and shocked by this action and that there would be harsh and appropriate disciplinary measures taken against the soldier who carried it out.
And meanwhile, John, we're hearing, of course, that Israel's been warning people not to return to southern Lebanon despite the ceasefire. What more are you hearing?
Well, it's a fragile ceasefire at best. It's been in place since Friday. It's expected to last for 10 days. It's due to last for 10 days. But the truth is the fighting hasn't really stopped. Israel today saying that it carried out strikes on Hezbollah rocket launchers, which it said were ready and loaded to use. There have been further strikes today. And there are thousands of troops occupying southern Lebanon. That is about 5% of Lebanese territory. And when these talks resume in Washington on Thursday, we think it's going to happen. They're being brokered by the United States. Direct talks, it's unusual. But a key sticking point, I think, is going to be whether those troops remain in southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Prime Minister, Joseph Aoun, has said that is a no-go. He wants them to withdraw to what he called the internationally recognized borders. But so far, Prime Minister Netanyahu here has given no indication that he's ready to meet that demand. So, as I say, the ceasefire in a pretty precarious position.
John, thank you. The BBC has found a pattern of spikes in trades on financial markets ahead of public announcements by President Trump, including during the Iran war. It's raised suspicions of insider trading whereby bets are made based on information that's not available to the general public. Well, the White House has not responded to a request for comment, although it has strenuously denied allegations of insider trading in the past. Here's the BBC's Nick Marsh.
Traders are making millions after Donald Trump makes a major announcement. Now there are questions. Is this insider trading? The BBC's found a pattern of spikes in trades just before Donald Trump says something that moves the financial markets. For example, 9 days into the war with Iran, Trump said in an interview that the war was pretty much complete and oil plunged. The first time the public would have known about that was 3:16 p.m. US Eastern Time. But market data shows a surge in trades 47 minutes earlier. Another case involves the online predictions platform Polymarket, in which the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., is an investor. One account made nearly $500,000 by correctly predicting the removal of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro the day before he was seized. The account changed its username and hasn't placed any more bets since. These activities have raised suspicions of illegal insider trading, using information that isn't available to the general public. Polymarket told the BBC that it proactively works with regulators and law enforcement to ensure market integrity. There are also people that say that some traders are simply getting good at guessing when the president is going to say something significant. Donald Trump Jr. didn't respond to a BBC request for comment, nor did the White House, though it's strenuously denied allegations of insider trading in the past.
Now, let's finish off by taking stock of where we are. Will Iran go to the peace talks in Islamabad? Well, with me now is BBC Persian correspondent Parham Gobadi. And Parham, I guess many people are asking themselves tonight, will Iran go? And if it does go, who would it send?
So Iranian officials have remained largely silent over their decision. They said that so far they haven't made their mind whether they're going or not. But what we can see is that two Iranian news agencies, Tasnim and Fars, that both are linked to Iranian Revolutionary Guards, simultaneously, almost within a few minutes, published two articles saying almost the same things. They said that it's a miscalculation for Iranian delegation to take part, quote unquote, as they're saying, American charade, because of the mistrust that they have. But the core issue that they have, and the reason they call it a miscalculation, is because of the naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Because they say that last time we reopened the Strait of Hormuz, they were expecting the Americans lifting the blockade as well. When that did not happen, that created even a more distrust. So even today, Masoud Pezeshkian, Iranian president, said as well that Americans should stick to their commitments and their obligations when they take part in negotiations. He said that it's obvious that they are seeking Iranian capitulation and Iranians will not submit to coercion.
OK, Parham, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for that. Parham Gobadi from BBC Persian. Well, whether you're joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, radio or TV, thanks so much for your time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.